Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. We had just spent the last 2 days in the beautiful and historic capital of Portugal, Lisbon. Lisbon is a thriving metropolis full of culture, great food, and a lively nightlife. Now we headed about 300 kilometers to the north to the city that sits in the mouth of the Douro River. This city has several stately bridges that connect two sides of a valley, and is the home of many beautiful vistas, narrow cobbled streets, and a healthy amount of wine production. It even has a riverfront that's worthy of even the most discerning travelers' Instagrams. This is Porto. We rode the train from Lisbon up to Porto, which was a journey in and of itself. Make sure you check out our video coming soon on this train ride, as well as how you can get your tickets, what it costs, and what it all entails. You can check the link down in the description below. We were immediately impressed by this city. Riding over the rail bridge as we came in, we couldn't believe the slopes on either side of the river, and we were even more impressed by the amazing structures that jutted out from the sides of the valley. This truly was one of the most unique and beautiful cities we've ever been to. For this trip, we were staying at an Airbnb out by the ocean in Foz do Douro, which is about a 15-minute cab ride away from the main part of the old town. For tonight, we decided to just stay at our Airbnb and explore the Foz neighborhood. We heard from locals that this is a more posh part of town, and with sea views like this, we could see how real estate would be a bit more expensive here. There's a beautiful river walk, and even more beautiful beaches, especially this one, the Ingleses Beach. There are also several restaurants in this area, and we were able to have ourselves a traditional Portuguese dinner right on the beach. We walked a bit further up the beach and reached the mouth of the river, where we found this fort, the Forte de São João Baptista, or the Fort of St. John the Baptist. The 17th century fort used to guard the mouth of the river. With that, we watched the sun set and prepared our plans for going into the city tomorrow. There we'd get a proper view of what this city had to offer, but we do have to say that if you're staying in Porto, you shouldn't neglect the beaches. The Foz district is absolutely beautiful, and it's really not that far away from the center of the old town. We've heard of many people who visit Porto never seeing the beaches at all, and we can say for a fact that it's worth it. The next morning we planned to go out into the city and see everything that we possibly could. We really had just one more full day here before a tour up the Douro Valley with plenty of port wine tasting. We were going on this trip the next day, and don't worry, we'll give you all of the details in a future video. We ordered an Uber from the Airbnb to the city center, which cost us less than $10. We were dropped off right outside of the São Bento railway station, a 19th century station known for its beautiful tile work. Right near the station is the Praça da Liberdade, a large square with some beautiful buildings. Unfortunately, when we were there was tons of construction going on here. We really didn't get to experience too much of the central squares of the city, so we made our way up one of the side streets that led to this beautiful church sitting on top of a hill. This was the Church of Saint Ildefonso. This 18th century church sits with a commanding view over the old town. You can tell just by looking at it that a lot of history's happened here. The church's exterior is also a great example of the blue and white tiles that are used as a decorative facade on many of the buildings in Portugal. It's really quite remarkable. Entrance to this church is free, and it's open to the public outside of service hours. So if you get a chance to make it up the hill, we would recommend it. Just a short walk down the street from this church is the river. We walked over and found ourselves peering out over the river valley, right next to the Muralla Fernandina, the Fernandine Walls. The construction of these walls started way back in 1336 as an outer defensive fortification for the city. Back then, this city was really confined to the north bank of the Douro River. Now you can find little sections of the walls like this scattered throughout this part of the city, and now even many buildings are built right into the side of the wall. This section of the wall is one of the best preserved, and it really sticks out from the skyline. Another notable feature of this wall is that it's also the border of the track for the funicular line that runs from down in the river valley up into the hill. This funicular is one of the easiest and fastest ways to get from the riverside up into the higher part of the city. A ride on this conveyance will cost you about $4 one way. Pretty cool view, huh?
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's cool seeing the funiculars too.
Yeah. We might take that later, but luckily we started our tour on the top of the hill here, so we only have to walk down. From this spot, we also get a great view of the Ponte Dom Luís I, the iconic arched bridge structure that connects the north and south of the city. That was our next destination. This bridge was honestly one of our favorite spots in Porto, and for being nearly 150 years old, it's looking pretty good. From the top section of the bridge, you can get amazing views of both the north and south banks, which are riddled with these classic orange-roofed buildings. The top section of the bridge is also a pedestrian zone with only tracks for the tram, so it's actually fairly peaceful and a nice place to be. You get some amazing views here, and it really is a postcard view. The top of this bridge is about 60 meters above the water. There is a lower section of the bridge as well with a road crossing and pedestrian area, but you really can't see as much from here. It really is a different atmosphere at the top of the bridge. After visiting this beautiful bridge, we decided it was time to grab a local brew.
We didn't get too far off of the bridge.
No, and your hair looks amazing, Catherine.
Oh my god.
It was about time for lunch, so we headed, of course, to one of the most exclusive, highbrow, and traditional dining experiences we could find in Porto: McDonald's. Now, all jokes aside, we did have a very good reason to go to this fast food joint, even while being in a place known for its local culinary delights. This McDonald's is widely known as the most beautiful in the world. McDonald's Imperial was inaugurated in 1995 in this beautiful space built in the 1930s. Originally called the Imperial Cafe, the space is ornate and exhibits an Art Deco style. It has been the most beautiful fast food experience we've ever had. Yeah, you know you want the fries, not a salad, right?
Oh yeah. I'm on vacation.
How is it?
Really good.
No, hitting the spot.
Yep.
After downing our Le Royale burgers, we headed over to the Porto Cathedral. This building stands on the north side of the river, with a vista of the valley down below. The first brick for this church was laid way back in the year 1110, but was not actually completed until the 18th century. This Romanesque church is beautiful, and it sits right next to the old Episcopal Palace, where the bishops of old used to live. Admission to the cathedral is free, but there were some renovations going on while we were there, so we weren't able to see inside. From there, we made our way through the town to another important and iconic spot in the city, the Clergios Tower. This tower is connected to the stunning Baroque church, situated right on top of one of the many hills in the city. The church is free to enter, and it was amazing inside. There is also a museum here with artifacts on display in the old meeting rooms of the Brotherhood of the Clerics, for whom the church was built and named after. The tower of this church is a symbol of the city, standing high above many of the other buildings here. mainly because of its location high up on a hill. This tower was built in 1754, and if you're able to climb up the 225 steps to the top, you can get an amazing view of Porto. A ticket to the tower and museum costs about $9 US. Another attraction that brings people to Porto is this building, the Livraria Lero. This lavishly decorated bookstore is known throughout Portugal as being an amazing spot to visit. Many people have actually dubbed it the Harry Potter bookstore because its design resembles something out of Hogwarts. You do have to purchase a ticket to get into the Livraria, and it costs €5. With this ticket, you get a specific time for entry, and we had to wait a bit before we could get in. When you buy a ticket, it does get you admission to this beautiful bookstore, but it also acts as a €5 voucher for anything that you purchase while you're here, so basically if you buy something, you get free admission. I went for this Jules Verne classic, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, complete with a custom dust jacket and an official stamp inside showing that I bought it here. Overall, it was a good experience, but it was extremely crowded, and we did have to walk around in a park outside for quite a bit while we were waiting to enter. The space in this bookstore is fairly small, after all it is an old building, so be prepared for some close quarters with strangers. Also in this area of town is a fairly unique twin church. These two churches that are connected, called the Igreja do Carmo and the Igreja dos Carmelitas, are both very beautiful and covered with that amazing blue and white tiling once again. It was getting to be late, so we started to make our way back down into the river valley so we could easily find a cab and have it take us back out to Foz. There are so many ways to walk down into the river valley from the hills of this city, and all of them are absolutely gorgeous. We found this ancient staircase leading down from a church on a hill, and we followed it until we were down by the Bolsa Palace. This palace is another major attraction. It's a 19th century building that's great for private events, and it even hosts tours of its halls. With that, we headed back out towards the ocean to call it a night. However, our evening didn't stop there though, because we found this amazing little restaurant out in Foz, and we got some equally amazing Portuguese food before heading off to bed. The next day we stayed near the beach in the morning. After all, we couldn't stay in the Foz district without going to the beach. Once again, we can't emphasize how great these beaches are. They're only about 15 minutes from the city, and they weren't very busy when we were there, although some of the nicer beaches can get crowded later in the day. Still, it's well worth the visit. We got ourselves some lunches out here and made sure that we ate enough, because today we were going to be drinking quite a bit down by the river in Porto. As we said before, the city is split by the river, but one thing that both sides have in common is that there's plenty of food and drink on the banks of the Douro. We first went to the north side of the river, on the beautiful promenade called the Cais de Ribeira. Here you'll find beautiful narrow streets filled with restaurants and shops. Closer to the river, there's plenty of bars. It was a warm day, so we kept hydrated with some cool sangrias in one of the many bars and restaurants here. What do you got there?
So we ordered a white sangria. This is actually our first time having white sangria. Normally we get the red. And it's really good. It's very refreshing, very citrusy.
Yeah. I learned how to operate the straw there. A walk down on this Riviera is almost magical, and you get some great views of the other bank of the city as well, which was our next destination. While the north side of the river has some great places for food, the south side of the river is known for its wineries. Of course, there aren't actual wineries here, but many of the big companies that make and export port wine can be found on the south side of the river. You can find countless wine and port shops here, and go in to sample the creations made by some of the most talented port makers in the world. You can also sign up for port tastings that take you around to several of the most popular purveyors in the city. You can check out some of the links below for some of the top-rated wine and port tours in Porto. We of course had to try some ports, and then ended our time on this bank of the river with another round of sangria. The port was good, but the sangria was just so much more refreshing on this hot day. Is it good?
It is really good. Very refreshing.
Yeah. Porto is an absolutely beautiful place. It was one of our favorite trips this entire time we've been here in Europe. The people here are amazing, the city is full of life and culture, the food and drinks are to die for, and the architecture and layout of this city make it feel like you're living in a postcard. Our time in Porto may have been done, but tomorrow we were heading up the Douro Valley on a pretty much all-day private port and wine tasting tour. Make sure you check out our next video to join us on this adventure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.